Hey guys, welcome to all of you into the another video of UPSC static practice series in which we take 5 questions which are related to the UPSC static portion and answer them. Our today's topic is British rules and regulations under the modern history. We have already made a video on taking 5 questions in this topic, and this time we are taking another 5 question. That is why our first question is question number 6. If you have not watched our first video yet, you should go and watch that. So without any further delay, let's start this video. Question number 6, which is the first question of this video. So which were annexed by the British, citing the doctrine of lapse? Number 1, Jhansi. Number 2, Satara. Number 3, Sambhalpur. So codes are given below: A12, B13, C23, D12 and 3. So its answer is D12 and 3. So Jhansi, Satara and Sambhalpur, all three were annexed by the British, citing the doctrine of lapse. So let's see the explanation. The final wave of annexation occurred under the Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor-General from 1848 to 1856. He devised a policy that came to be known as the doctrine of lapse. So the last time when annexation occurred in India was under Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856, and whose policy was doctrine of lapse. Now tell me, who was the Governor General when there was a first revolt of 1857 in India? Comment. Tell me in the comment. The doctrine declared that if Indian rulers died without a male heir, his kingdom would lapse, that is, become part of company's territory. So what was the basically doctrine of lapse? Was that if any princely state, if any state which has a prince or Indian ruler, but if the ruler dies and he don't have any male heir, of its own, then his territories will be annexed. It means if the king has daughter and he eventually dies, then there will be then his territories will be annexed by the British and not given to her daughter. So that is the doctrine of lapse. Okay, so one kingdom another was annexed simply by applying this doctrine. So these were Satara in 1848, Sambhalpur in 1850, Udaipur in 1852, Nagpur in 1853, and the Jhansi in 1854. So these three are in our option. That is why our option number D is right, which is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now finally in 1856 the company also took over Awadh. Question number 7, which is our second question. Consider following statement about the Government of India Act of 1858. Okay, number 1, it abolished the East India Company rule in India. Number 2, it changed the entire structure of the government in India prevailing earlier. As per the Act, Indian government was to be supervised and controlled in England. So the question is asking which statement are correct. A12, B23, C13, D12 and 3. So its right answer is C1 and 3. Let's see the explanation. This significant act was enacted in the wake of the revolt of 1857. The act is also known as the Act for the Good Government of India, abolished the East India Company rule and transferred the power of the government, territories and revenue to the British Crown. So our first statement is right. That's why. See, now the features of the act. Which act? Act of 1858. Okay, sorry, 1858. It provided that India henceforth was to be governed by and in the name of Her Majesty. Okay, and it changed the designation of the Governor General to the Viceroy. So it changed the name basically of Governor General to the Viceroy, and he was direct representative of the British Crown in India. Lord Canning thus became the first Viceroy. So the Governor General, which was henceforth to be named the Viceroy, was the direct representative of the Queen to India, and the Lord Canning was the first viceroy. It ended the system of dual government by abolishing the board of control and court of director. So there was two body. Number one was called the court of directors, and there was another that was called the board of control. So court of director basically done all things in India. So the main work to do things in India, to supervise, to control the government, revenue, everything was done by that body that is called the court of directors. But there was another body which was called the board of control, and it supervised the court of directors. So basically what this act did is, this act abolished these two bodies, and what made in the place of this body, which is the board of control, it made the secretary of state and a advisory body of the 15 members, and it was called the secretary of state in council. And this body was capable of suing and being sued in India. So basically there was the secretary of state for India, who was to supervise viceroy. The secretary was direct member of British cabinet, and he was responsible to the British Parliament. Okay, and he was assisted by 15 member of council in India, and the council was advisory body. So it should be noted here that the council was advisory body. The Act of 1858 was, however, largely confined to the improvements of the administrative machinery by which the Indian government was to be supervised and controlled in England, and it did not alter in any substantial way the system of the government that prevails in India. So what does the act did? There was many flaws in the administration. So it mainly changed the administration of the company, it changed the bureaucracy structure, but it did not alter in any substantial way the structure of the government. You can see that there was Governor General, whose name only changed to the Viceroy. Now the next question. Question number 8. Which of the act passed by the British Parliament introduced an open competition system of the selection and the recruitment of the civil servants in India before independence, and the separate legislative being for the Governor General? So options are given: A. Charter Act of 1853, B. Indian Council Act of 1861, C. Indian Council Act of 1892, and the Charter Act of 1833. So the answer is Charter Act of 1853, which is A. Now let's see the explanation. Features of the Act of 1853. So it separated for the first time the legislative and the executive function of the Governor General. So what basically it did was, there was a body that was there was a viceroy, which was already called the Governor General, and his associates, and this body was empowered to make laws and implement. Basically this was a cabinet, and the cabinet was also responsible for making laws like parliament and implementing them on themselves. But this act added 6 members, and then these members, including these members, this body was called the Indian Central Legislative Council, and these members were added for the purpose of making laws, for the purpose of making laws. So this was like a mini parliament. So this act for the first time separated the legislative and the executive function. Okay, it provided for the addition of 6 new members, as I said, and it established the separate Governor General Legislative Council. Okay, and this legislative wing of the council functioned as a mini parliament, adopting the same procedure as the British Parliament. Thus legislation for the first time was treated as a special function of the government, requiring the special machinery and the special process. Now it introduced an open competition system for the selection and the recruitment of the civil servants. So what this act did was it, there was civil services, Indian civil services, but the in these civil services only British can apply at that time, and this act did was this act opened it for the Indians too. So to implement it for this purpose, the Macaulay Committee was appointed in 1854. Now read further. So before this Charter Act of 1833 attempted to introduce a system of open competition for selection of civil servants and stated that the Indians should not be debarred from holding any place, office and employment under the company. However, this provision was negated after opposition. So before the Charter Act of 1853, there was a Charter Act of 1833 which also allowed Indians to be recruited under the Indian civil services, but there was an opposition from the court of directors. That's why this provision was not implemented at that time. Now it extended the company's rule and allowed it to retain the possession of the Indian territories on the trust of the British Crown. But it did not specify any particular period. And the previous charters, unlike the previous charters, this was a clear indication that the company's rule could be terminated at any time when the Parliament liked. So basically what this act of 1853 did was this extended the company's rule for the period, but did not mention any time that for which period we are giving you the power to take possession of the Indian territories. So this was the indication that now the company's territory can be acquired at any time by the Parliament. Now number 4, it introduced for the first time local representation in the Indian Legislative Council of the 6 members which were being added by for the purpose of making laws. Out of 6 members, 4 members were Indian, who were taken from the Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra provincial governments. Okay, now let's move to the next question. Question number 9. Consider the following statement regarding the proposal of the Cripps Mission. So Cripps Mission's proposal, consider following statement. Number 1. An Indian Union with the Dominion status would be set up. Number 2. Defense of India would remain in the British hands. Number 3. It allowed the Muslims the right to self-determine and the creation of the Pakistan. So which statement is correct? A 1 2, B 1 3, C only 2, D 2 and 3. So the right answer is the right answer is A 1 and 3. The third statement is wrong. Let's see the explanation. The main proposal of the Cripps Mission were as follows. So the Cripps Mission was being sent to India in 1942. So here are the main proposals. An Indian Union with a Dominion status would be set up, and it would be free to decide its relation with the Commonwealth and free to participate in the United Nations and other international bodies. So our first statement is right. An Indian Union will be set up with the Dominion status, not full-fledged state, but with a Dominion status, but it would be free to decide its relation with the Commonwealth and the United Nations. Number 2, after the end of the war, which was the Second World War, a constituent assembly would be convened to frame new constitution. Members of this assembly would be partly elected by the provincial assemblies through proportional representation and partly nominated by the princes. Number 3, British government would accept the new constitution subjected to 2 conditions. Any province not willing to join union could have separate constitution and form a separate union. So what was the first condition? First condition was that assume that this is India and this is the United Province at that time. So if United Province not willing to join the Indian Union, then it could have its own legislation, its own constitution, and it can make its own union. So any state not willing to join had the power to be remain intact, separate. Now the second condition was that the new constitution making body and the British government would negotiate a treaty to effect the transfer of the power and to safeguard racial and religious. So there was a constituent assembly and there was a British parliament. So the constituent assembly making body and the British parliament would negotiate a treaty. For which purpose? So that the power of the transfer of the power could be made, and there were some religious minorities whose rights can be safeguarded. Now the fourth, in the meantime, the defense of India would remain in the British hands. So that's why the third statement is right. And our second statement is not right, because in the second statement it was said that the Muslims had full rights to form the Pakistan. That was not right, because Muslim had not any right to make the Pakistan under this proposal. Now Congress objected to, but Congress rejected the Cripps proposal. Why? The offered dominion, because Congress did not wanted the dominion stated. It wanted the complete independence, of course. Number second, representatives of the princely state. We have read that the representatives from the provinces were elected, but from the princely state they were nominated. So Congress objected on that front too. And there were many things by which the Congress objected, and Muslim League too objected in this matter. First was the criticized the idea of single union. Basically it criticized the idea of single union because it wanted the separate state Pakistan, and it did not like the machinery of creation of and the constituent assembly which was created, the machinery which was taken up to create the constituent assembly, the formula it didn't like. So there were many things which Muslim League objected to. Now we will move to the next question. So the first law commission was established under the chairmanship of Lord Macaulay by which act? So first one, A is Government of India Act of 1935, Charter Act of 1833, C Law Commission Act of 1867, D Government of India Act of 1919. So the answer is B, Charter Act of 1833. Let's see the explanation. Law reforms in the ancient period was ad hoc and not institutionalized. However, since the third decade of the 19th century, law commissions were constituted by the government from time to time. The first law commission was established in 1834 under the Charter Act of 1833. Thereafter, the second, third, fourth law commissions were constituted in 1853, 1861, 1879. Respectively, helped adapt English laws to the Indian condition. So first law commission was established in 1834 under the chairmanship of Lord Macaulay under the Charter Act of 1833, and there were four respective law commission which were held in these years. So the first law commission of independent India was established in 1955 under then Attorney General of India, Mr. M.C. Stewart, as its chairman. Now our 5 questions are over. This is it for today. If you loved the video, do like and subscribe and share to your friends so that they could also check their preparation level. And thank you for coming here.